we do have a quorum. Are we on?
Yes, sir.
We do have a quorum. Thank you this morning. I'd like to start off with our invocation, and Councilman Berger, would you please do the invocation?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. God, our Father, we thank you now, Master, for this opportunity of these great men and women to come together to discuss the business of economic development. We pray for clarity of thought and of mind. We pray for direction for our city and for the common good of mankind. These and other blessings we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. We go to our consent agenda. Item B, consideration and approval of the May 20th, 2019 board meeting minutes. Consideration and approval of the April 30th, 2019 income and expenses. C would be consideration and approval of the annual sponsorship of all of the DeSoto Rotary Club's 14 colonies of 13 flags in the amount of $4,200, same amount as previous years. Pleasure, board. Moved by Director Wildwood, have a second?
Second.
Second by Director King. We will bring it forward and say all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, motion passed. Our regular agenda, new business items for discussion and or possible action. Item number 1 is City Council Liaison update regarding city events, meetings, etc. by Council Member Andre Bird, Senior, City Council Liaison.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of things that's going on that we're excited about. We have a joint city council and school board meeting scheduled for Thursday, the 27th of June. That is currently scheduled for 6 p.m. and in the Blue Bonnet Room. We've been working very hard to reestablish and keep that relationship between the school board and the city vibrant and moving forward. And then on July 4th, DeSoto will be hosting a combined celebration with the city of Lancaster and Duncanville, and Don Diego and Miss Michelle will be our special guest here at Grimes Park, and that will be on Thursday, July the 4th, starting at 6 p.m. The last thing is that during the council work session, we were educated on WBEs. We had a presentation brought to us by what the city could do, maybe with partnership on increasing minority business and women business ownership and partnership in city projects. So that is my report for this particular meeting.
Okay. Are there any questions?
We just want to welcome you, Andre.
Thank you very much, Mr.
You
Walker.
did a great job for us.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
I do have one question. The school board meeting, you
Yes,
said
sir.
that's on Thursday?
Thursday, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Is that the first one joint one you guys have had it on?
The first one this year.
Okay.
That is the first one. I think that normally there are two,
Okay.
but this one obviously is kind of kicking off the new relationship, and I believe that the mayor is very dedicated to keeping that going and actually have had subsequent meetings outside of the full council.
Well, I commend you guys for putting that together. And I think we're all one city, so
Yes,
thank you
sir.
a lot for doing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for it? Okay, thank you very much, Councilman Bird. Item number 2 is Grow DeSoto Marketplace Incubator Financial Status Report, presentation by Monty Anderson, Option Real Estate. Hey,
Good morning.
Monty.
How are y'all?
Good.
I think you have your financial report there.
What page is it on?
Tab 2, C2, page 21.
Okay.
And you'll notice that our net income this month is down below what it normally is for a couple of 3 reasons. May, just the rents came in differently. They come in June, some of them a little bit slow. We billed all of our management fees, which are 3%. We didn't bill them for the whole year, and we took them all in this month. And a couple of other expenses we had for getting ready for several events that we had in there. And so that affected that, but it'll bounce back up in June. Rick Keeler, our CFO, tells me it'll come back up in June, and even more than normal, just because of the way the income came in. So with that, I'll answer any questions or.
Board, you know that we will be moving some more money as we can into our account as far as rent and things. Expenses are a little more than we had anticipated, that especially on utilities, Encore, no. It's had no pick on anybody's here. You know, we took a guesstimate on, and that's all it was last year when we were doing budget, our new budget reflects, computer data, for the coming year.
Joe, if you look at the electric, we're working on some things too, making sure things get cut off and, you know, we turn things back on slowly and things keeping our demand, trying to reset our demand and some things. So we replaced all the lights with LED. There's some other things that we're doing to keep those utilities more efficient. So we're working on that each month, but they're only $24.58 in electric and math.
Would like to bring one thing to the board's attention. I know a couple of you have received an email from one of our tenants that's not happy with things going, the way things are going. I know that not every tenant is going to make it, but it's a joint decision whether people come and go, and they have a tenant that is not happy with the way we're running the place. But at the same time, she's only there 2 hours a day, about 5 days a week. So we you know, that is a problem for us. We knew it would be. We jointly decided not to renew her lease because she's really not interested in being our full-time. We need, that's one of the downfalls of this heat budget thing is so many people are not open and people come in and visit and there's nothing there for them to do or see or buy. It's a learning process for all of us, and our year is about ending. But we have a lot of people waiting in line to get in the incubator, so that's the good thing. I mean, we've interviewed several. I think that it's going to at least break even or do better this coming year. I think I budgeted to break even. If you have questions about it, I mean,
This tenant here too is behind in her rent. Okay, she won't open. She's in a prime spot at the beginning. We've talked to her, it's in her lease, you know, we have minimum hours for people in their lease. So she's been in default the entire year. So we've worked with her, we've talked with her, Terry's worked with her, I think Joe and may have worked with her, we have, I mean, and so all of her suggestions in that letter that she's wrote and gave, I think, to the entire council, we're doing like 99% of everything that she suggested we do. It's funny, I just think it's
not there to realize.
And she's a troublemaker on top of that. So, other than that,
I know
she's
you
fine.
got it, I don't know who else, but, and the mayor received it.
Yeah.
So, I just want to bring you up.
I have her tenant ledger here, so you see how far behind she is. So, again, we don't just go lock people out, we work with them more than we normally would. When people get behind, we're constantly, you know, working with them the best we can. If somebody's trying real hard and they're opening on time, we're gonna be more lenient. You know, Joe can verify this, but if they're not opening on time and you're behind on your rent and you're a troublemaker, you know, it's like, you know, at some point it's time to move on. The other thing too that, you know, I don't know, Joe, did you have, we won the Clyde Award, you know, and the Clyde Award, the Clyde Award was, you know, for the entire project. Rose was a part of that project, but if you remember, the city council changed the zoning. We had work with building department, public works staff. You know, we created mixed use. The DeSoto, the educational piece, the mentoring piece, all the pieces together made, when you check the 10 principles of celebrating leadership and development excellence, DeSoto Marketplace entirely, because of everybody that was involved, checked nearly every one of them across the board. And the judges of that, I was just telling Bobby, one of the judges was Joe Riley from Charleston, South Carolina, who was the mayor out there for 40 years. He's been voted one of the 5 men who changed the face of urban America. He was in Charleston when there was lots of problems, and then Charleston today, of course, a great, you know, unbelievable So this is a very serious award, and the judges are very serious. It's not some award that you get for just turning the application in. A lot of them are like that, but it was like that. And it took, there was no way that, any one person or one entity, it took all of us together, EDC, City Council, Options Real Estate, and the Industry Hub, and Ash and Lime, our planners who did the zoning. It took really that whole group to make that happen, and I appreciate all of you for contributing there.
And I'd just like to add to that also, Bonnie, for those who don't know it, it's the North Central Texas Council of Government designation of award. And the North Central Texas Council of Government includes 16 counties in North Central Texas and Northeast Texas, from Collin to Tarrant, Dallas, represents over 7 million people. So when you get an award like this from North Central Texas Council of Government, it's very meaningful because there's a lot of competition out there in that population. We're competing with all across that. So I commend everybody who worked on this and worked on it hard. It's work in progress, it will continue, but just so we kind of get some feel for the significance of it, it was really a great honor for the so to be included in that. And then I would like to also say that the mayor was selected as the new secretary treasurer for the North Central Texas Council of Government. And eventually, as that system works, in next year she will move to vice president, and the year after that she will become president. So that's a huge number of people and operations out there. She sits on, I believe, the RTC, the Regional Transportation Conference. Her mayor is well versed, she's well recognized, and it's a real honor to have her at the helm up there eventually and where she is today.
Mayor Waddle was the past president, and he was also on the selection committee for new officers, I believe, and directors, and so we appreciate you being there for representing the board for us.
Yeah, a little impact on that.
Well, she's got her reputation. She's been going. She's out there. It's great.
Anything else on the incubator report?
Well, one thing here, Ms. Henderson, I want to definitely say this, because I know you're going to take off right after this. You as well, Ms. Tony. I think you guys graduated your first entrepreneur out of the center, is that correct?
Oh, well, there's two actually. Well,
Okay.
one is Alwyn, Devon, just like Alwyn.
Dwayne.
Dwayne, not me.
Dwayne,
yeah,
uh-huh.
Dwayne. Alwyn's great. I mean, he's a guy that turns in his financials on time, he pays his rent on time, he's like by the book. I mean, he gives you a book of detail every time. He's great. I like, and he is moving into a space in the center.
Right.
To a bigger space. Of course, he's got a manufacturing operation also in Eagle Park. I don't know if you know that. He's got one there. And then the Shells and Tells guy who's down there, we're gonna take credit for him anyway, but we didn't start him. He was already started before we did, but he did move in down there. And he's gonna purchase that old gas station auto, that nasty auto repair thing next door.
Right.
And I'd made a promise to the city manager when we started this that I would not renew that lease for that automotive, because that guy was in violation of his zoning and his lease and everything. And so he's gonna buy that building, he's gonna buy the building, he's gonna own it, and he's going to put his market, he'll have a little market in there, like a Cajun seafood market. He'll have a market in there, he'll own the building, he'll have a few seats, a little outdoor, kinda like All Shucks, if anybody knows over on, Greenville, kind of like an All Shucks feel a little bit. So, and this guy's making money, he's got money in the bank. I mean, this guy's, he's what we're striving to be. He is. I mean, he's great. And so that's exciting. So that's two of them.
Correct.
But Alwyn's moving, I think, the first.
She said first, yeah. Well, I just wanted to, we hear some of all the negative stuff, but every once in a while, stuff, get some sunshine in and say, man, the program is working.
Yeah.
You've already graduated.
And if you talk to.
Thank you, Ms. Tony, for all your help as well.
You talk to James McGee, he's the Peace, Love, and Eats over there.
Yeah.
James McGee he's made money from month one, every single month. He's made, and Mary Porter next to him, the baker, has not made as much, but she's on her way. I mean, she's getting their.
She's in there, she's diligent in there every
She is, and the hat lady, Virginia Montgomery, the hat lady is moving from her littler space to a little bit bigger space, so she's actually growing, up to a different space too. So there's, and then, like Joe said a minute ago, I've got, and I'm handling every lead myself that comes in, not any of my staff or anything, I'm handling it. Lena helps me, but, I'm handling every single one of them personally. But I have about 10, 11 people right now I'm talking to, and they get through me, and we look at the space, and then we bring them to the committee. The committee approves them or not.
I think the major thing that we need to kind of iron out is the timing. You know, making sure that everybody's open, you know.
We put it in their leases, we talk to them, we had a committee, we said, can you be open? You know, is this part-time? I mean, and they'll tell us yes, they sign the lease, and then they don't do what they say. And so that's the nature of, you know, incubating people that don't have the experience, you know, yet in business. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, we're dealing with people that have mostly that have no experience at all. Some of us, like you, and we've grown up as entrepreneurs, but, you know, a lot of our people, some of them have, but most of them have never been in business before. And so that learning.
Yeah, and sometimes what you learn in an incubator environment is what you don't like to do.
Yeah, true.
And so that's part of the growing experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. Anyway, it's working. It shows us, I mean, the troubles we have also show us where our weaknesses are as a community and where we need to work on things. And so, I mean, I think we're doing the right things. Could we be better? Obviously we can, you know, but I think that we're moving in that direction all the time.
Anything else for it? Thank you, Ms. Sanders.
Thank y'all.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Got moving down to item number 3, which is the Soto Chamber of Commerce update by Kenneth Govan, Board Chairman-elect, the Soto Chamber of Commerce.
This is under C3, page 50, board.
Hold on, the discussion and possible action on the agreement for professional services between the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce and the DeSoto Economic Development Corporation regarding the business retention site business. What section, Joe?
Section 3, tab 3, page 50. Start off with the report first.
Okay. You don't have to do that. You can get prepared.
Thank you very much. Good morning, board. As the chair said, my name is Kenneth Govan. I am the chair-elect, incoming chair for the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce. Also give me the opportunity to also introduce Ms. Carol Heck. Carol Heck is serving as a special consultant for the DeSoto Chamber of Commerce during the transition period that we actually have right now. There are certain things that I did want to actually highlight in regard to the report that we have here. One thing is in regards to the Good Morning DeSoto, that's going to be at the Global Hotel. That's one of the, of course, you know, that's one of the new hotels we have in town. We're looking forward to that, and they're looking forward to hosting us in regards to bringing people in, so they can just show and take a tour of the hotel here, which is going to be July 2nd at 8 a.m. I did want to actually go over on the economic development rep and shop local. When I was talking to Cynthia preparing this, she actually talked to me in regards to the, I guess the call report, the visit reports.
Mm-hmm.
I've done rep programs in the past, and I'm new. This is my first board meeting here. I wanted to ask a question. In the last couple of months, I'm looking, a lot of the visits that are shown here on this list are chamber members. Is that what the EDC was looking for? Or is this a list of companies that we have that we're supposed to, in the contract, that agreement that we actually have with the EDC? I'm curious in regards to, do we have a specific list of members that you want us to visit? Because when I look at these are chamber members. These aren't members that the EDC would have had any record in regards to interaction
You're
with.
talking about
These visits that were in the past.
Our chamber members.
Yeah, I'm looking at the April and March log reports, like, and like Wingstop. I know Wingstop, I mean, is that an EDC
Well,
visit or?
basically what we're looking for, some of them were not chamber members, but
Well-
and the way the previous employee, worked it, she was trying to retain members, but also attract new members, so, and the larger companies, Shamar would set up appointments, and a lot of times the mayor would come, we've had different board members attend, the larger companies anyway.
And I would agree with that.
And that's worked well. We've had, by contract, we're supposed to get so many a month of those visits. And we have to get value out of the chamber. We can't make a donation to the chamber.
I 200% agree, and I wouldn't expect that. My question would be, on this list that you're looking at, these were chamber members that didn't have anything to do with an EDC grant or an EDC. So I was curious why they were on this list.
Their businesses in the restaurant. We have a lot of people that we help that aren't even residents of both of their residents. I mean, Ms. Toomey works with people that are starting businesses and everything, whether they're in the incubator or not in the incubator. We do seminars for them. We try to.
Well, like one of them is the hospital in Lancaster. What would the EDC and DeSoto have to
Yeah,
do
I don't
with the
know about
hospital?
that.
That was the March visit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I was really curious in regards to what direction
Obviously, they're members of the chamber.
the members of the chamber.
Yeah.
Which why, and I was curious why they was on the EDC report.
Mhm.
And so I was confused in regards to, so the reason why I didn't make a copy of these is because I wanted to make sure that we were giving you the value that you're paying for, what you're looking for, and not just, we're putting together a list and saying we're doing something. Because I'm looking for some action and some meat and some value into this, but I didn't see what value that this board had with the visit to Crescent Medical Center in Lancaster.
Yeah,
And so I was just curious, I wanted to make sure that we're giving you the bang for your buck that you're looking for. And I wanted to come here, throw myself on the mercy of the court and say, okay, I'm not really understanding in regards to what, this report doesn't show me what you're expecting from us, because this is all over the report. We have, because in some of these, some of this status over here, we talked about like past due. Why are you concerned about somebody being past due to us? So I want to make sure, is this something that was talked about, negotiated, something y'all asked
Sounds
for?
like it's something that's been done through the years and, just
Okay.
as a good citizen who participate in, the various activities of the chamber.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
And if that's the case, I'm fine with that, but I didn't want to continue doing something and then you're thinking, why are you telling us this? Why are you getting into this? This isn't what we're looking for. If you're paying money, I want you to get that value for what you're paying for, and I personally wasn't seeing it.
In the past, the board also had a revolving loan fund, and it went through the chamber first, and they narrowed it down, or they weeded out the ones that they didn't think could. That program has been taken away and we were discontinued. But as far as the site visits and things, we just want to make sure that the chamber is doing something for people of DeSoto, and whether they're members or not, that doesn't matter.
And my question would be, is there a specific list of people you want us to target, or just do we pick that list?
The only one I've asked the chamber to target lately, and Vanessa in my office, was the hotels, because we want to make sure that all the hotels are doing well, but we also want to make sure that the occupancy is up. We want to start using the hotel, and we're getting another one, looks like. So we want to make sure that we want to use this data to attract restaurants in that area. That's one of our goals. And so hotels, the number of rooms, the occupancy rates, those type of things, so we can start marketing to restaurants is really one of the things we want right now, I think. Carrie, is that kind of what we were talking about?
And I think also, to be fair, to Shamara, so.
Well, I'm not being unfair. I just
Well,
wanna make sure I
no, I
understand.
mean, I just wanted to clarify. So in the past, she and I would work together. Shamara would focus on the smaller businesses, and whether or not they were a chamber member, I think she was trying to either attract them or retain them. And then I would focus on the bigger businesses, the ones in the industrial park, and then we would organize a meeting for leadership, like the mayor, Joe, your staff, the ISD. And so that was the kind of relationship that we were building, or
Okay.
how we were kind of attacking it, because there's no way that one person can you know, kind of be a liaison for all of the businesses in
Okay.
DeSoto.
All right.
So the chamber was more focused on the smaller business, and then we were focused on the bigger business, but then collectively, we would both, you know, reach out to everybody as much as we could,
Okay.
yeah.
So my second part to that is the businesses that the chamber is talking to in regards to past dues, trying to get them as members, is that something the EDC wants to continue to see?
I don't think we were pushing those, I think that was just her, making her quota every month to show that she was making visits, I think was.
Okay.
However, if there's some trends going on, you
Yeah.
know.
That would be
where-
something the EDC, yes, if we see that we have customers or members that are dropping membership and that are leaving DeSoto, yes, I agree, that would be part of a report, and not just standard, information that we're sitting here.
Right.
In regards to the hotel, I know one of the programs that, I've looked at and I've talked to the board, the chamber board about, is that, hotels look at, because of our distance from the airport, some of the concerns that hotels have had is that, customers that come stay at the hotel in DeSoto, they're concerned because Ubers are so expensive and taxis are so expensive, and we don't have any shuttle going from our hotels to either DFW or Love Field. So one of the things that I had talked to them about was maybe getting together and doing a van that all the hotels use that market DeSoto, have all the hotels' names on them, and they do trips to the airports. We met as a tourism committee before, and we talked about that. And because hotels are saying, you know, it took me forever to get out here. I had to do an Uber, and I apologize. He's the new marketing person for the city. Matt
Yeah.
said when he came down here, you know, he had to rent a car. He was amazed how far he had to drive from the airport to here. Now, all cities can't be close to airports. I understand. I mean, if they were, we'd be in trouble. But I guess there's something we can do in regards to partnering with the hotels to make sure their occupancy and make it tangible and palatable for people to still stay here, because they're gonna do business with solar turbines. They're gonna be doing business here with industrial customers here. I know solar turbines, they actually have their own car. They would send it to the airport because we didn't have a shuttle or anything going out there. And the reason why I know is because it was a black Navigator. And when they got through with it, I bought it.
Oh, no.
That's how I know that's what they did in regards to that. Second thing is, when I've done a rep program in the past, mine was not just a visit. It was a form that we sent to the company. We actually asked in regards to, of course, their name, their parent company, number of employees, trends that they actually are going through, conventions, technology that they're involved with. Then we have a second part to the form where we would actually ask, are there any local concerns that they have? I know one program I had before with a trucking company in Lancaster, you know, they were concerned because some of their trucks almost got hit coming out of their facility. So when that happens, we don't just show up because you're the mayor. We don't just show up because we brought the mayor. But if you're having a concern with code enforcement, if you're having a problem with theft, if you like at Encore, we had a problem with people stealing copper wire from the back of our facility. It would be great to have the mayor come, but you know, police coming meant more to us in regards to what we're gonna do in regards to that. So when we had that form, we may send that form out to them maybe 2 weeks before. Now, when that happens, we get the right person that they wanna talk to, and not just having a ceremonial visit when we actually go out there just to say we brought the mayor and the city council member here. So that's kind of one of the ideas that I'm thinking when I sent the report in regards to maybe revamping and getting more detail in regards to direct programs. Is that something that the EDC is interested in? Is that too much detail? Is that?
Oh, I think it's fine, and normally when we do meet, especially with the larger companies, larger industries, we ask all those questions. We ask them about how things are going, and if there's any concerns, and having the mayor, the city manager, whoever there with us, has helped some of the companies, police protection, we moved the shuttle service, the Star Transit, put a stopover by from the companies, like I said, the people for the employees. We had things like that, but, we also asked them things like, who are your suppliers? So-
Right, exactly.
So we can invite those people to our community.
Mhm.
That's the kind of things that what we usually do at one-on-one. We haven't been sending out a form, I guess we should. but-
That's something I did. I mean, I've done it before, I'm not saying.
And Brett program, business retention expansion programs, they are a useful service, and we're not picking on the chamber, we're not, I don't think, but we haven't renewed this contract in 4 years, over 4 years, and the board just needs to decide whether there's enough value to do it, and everything that Harry does is, what's return on investment.
And I truly can agree with that.
That's kind of where we are with it.
Yeah, if you look at, let's go, you look into page 51, the general premise is that it's in, 2001, where you're looking at business extension and retention services, and that's a collaborative effort with you, and that's a correct. That your office is working closely with their office to ensure that that information is very important for someone to come back to us and say, hey, they got a coding issue, a force of whatever's out there.
Mhm.
We wanna know, because we all know sitting in this room,
Mhm.
it costs a whole lot less to keep you than it does to go out and
And find
acquire
somebody else,
someone
yeah.
brand new.
Mhm.
So our game is that we wanna be at a 95% retention. I think where you might, your board has the latitude, however you wanna do it, the teeth may need to go into it deeper to say, what do we have as a baseline in the community, and how many of those have left the community? I don't know that we know those numbers. Those are very important numbers. If you run at a 95% retention rate, that's awesome. And then all of a sudden you went down to 85%, what happened?
What happened?
What did we lose here? What's that?
Right.
The data that's on here that's kind of interesting to me a little bit, when we do see, like, Director King was saying here, when you see the status here and all of a sudden we start seeing a bunch of past dues and a bunch of folks falling off, and we're concerned because part of this was to help subsidize your financial issues and woes, and we came up with, we can do the retention piece. But if we don't see this thing growing in here,
Mhm.
like, wow, man. But we do love this over here.
Yes.
That's just telling us all kind of issues that are going on with that particular company. So I think that you guys can have the latitude, in my opinion, and then the board will have to talk about, to make that program the best program you can make that program. That's all I'm after. What's the best retention program that we can put together with Vanessa and Joe's office as well?
And I am more than willing to, try to bring a new view to it, or more in-depth view to, but I wanna make sure, like I said before, I can have the best idea in the world, but if you don't think it's a good idea, that's not a good idea. So I wanna make sure I have that open communication in regards to that, to do that.
Because today you're in front of us as well for renewing of that contract, is that correct? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, it automatically renews, I don't think there's a drop dead date on this,
Does it automatically renew, Pete?
Yes,
Their
automatic
contract?
renews, yeah.
automatically renews.
Yep.
What did we have it on the agenda for, Joe?
We have it on the agenda if you take
You wanna
action or not
discuss?
take action. If you're not gonna take action, it just stays the same.
Right.
The only change in there is that we don't do the loan program anymore, but that's such a minor change, I don't think we need to write a new contract. But if you want to, I mean, we can. If there's something that's not in this contract that you want, people have to write another one.
So
I don't think we need to amend the contract just to,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's no longer a program, so there's nothing for you to
Nothing for us
administer.
to do.
Okay.
Well, after your discussion,
Yes, sir.
in reality, yes, there's some distance, and we're looking over the entire area. We are much closer to Dallas, when it's a jet, than we get to Dallas, and Lovefield, and Frisco, or McKinney.
Very much so.
any of that.
And let me put a caveat to that too. One of the things that we talked about is most people who are traveling in earn expense accounts. That's just a realization of that. That's just one of the concerns that the Holiday Inn brought to our attention in regards to that. They also brought up, customer service from local businesses here. Now, that was a major concern for us. If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, give me just the latitude for like one more minute.
Yes, sir.
They talked about, we went to a local car rental place, The hotel took the customer to the car rental place. The customer was like, I already have my reservations, I've already told them my car is ready, so you don't have to stay. Hotel left. Customer called them about 45 minutes later and said that when they got there, something was wrong with the key fob in the car. The car wouldn't open. Problem is, the people at the car rental place literally said, but the car still runs, that's not our problem, and left the customer there.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the key fob, they didn't have a key to go into it, and the key fob didn't work. Well, to me, that's bad on the city. That's because this person was actually from New Hampshire, and they traveled in, and they had to call the hotel and say, you gotta come back and get me. And the hotel didn't mind, but they were like, that's kind of the things that, you know, this customer now has gone back. That's all they talked about in the hotel. Because they have that, they feel like they have that relationship with that car rental. So they talk about local customer service, and a lot of time they talk about the restaurants and people coming into town, and they will come back to the hotel and complain to people about they had a bad experience at this hotel, they had a bad experience at this restaurant, and the car rental place just stuck out everybody. Things like that. And so that kind of stuff will lower occupancy because they don't see it as the person can get them wrong. It's the setup.
Yeah.
I had this experience in the setup, and that's kind of what we're looking at.
Do we have, since it's on the agenda, do we have any more discussion on the actual contract itself? Or do you guys understand it, or you want to open it up just for a little bit of conversation with the water?
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave it the same. This could change. We may put it back on the board next month, but the city is the big contributor to the chamber. To huge amount of hotel occupancy tax. There's a joint meeting with the city council and the chamber on the 1st, right? I want to make sure I have the date right, so I have it on the calendar. Monday the 1st, if anyone can pursue the open meeting, if anyone wants to pursue.
That business revolving fund loan program, that's out.
That's it, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's out.
But he says no need, just, you know, he says no need to operate this and that.
No need to rewrite that contract.
No.
Just took it out.
No.
And they're all going to renew, so everybody's okay with that.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that's gonna be interesting. We've been reading about Uber.
Took them from the airport myself.
Transportation, in and out, 6 or 7 people, whatever. Okay, now, you visionary, you gotta help them. They gotta have a place to put the bird down when they get there. I think just something very wise, and having those kinds of facilities, if they're needed and can be used. It's a quick way to the airport, whatever, you can afford to do it, you know? And hopefully they make it cheap enough, that's what the rest of us get to.
And I'll be honest with you, that was actually another part of that discussion. When I had discussion in regards to getting together the van, if that wasn't a viable thing. What I've done is some of my contacts personally, I knew the lobbyist in Austin for Uber, and I talked to him about that idea. About in regards to having like a hub where they can actually, cause they don't just drive around, they don't just waste gas in regards to that, like you
If
said.
you have that operation that isn't working well, then you can have transportation.
To different places like that. And so he's looking internally in regards to what that looks like to Uber. So we talked about that probably 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
Yes.
We happen to have office space if they're interested.
Hey, that's her job. I would've been surprised if she hadn't stuck that out there, yes.
Let's go ahead, what I think the board is saying here, I guess that we're ready to just continue forward with the way the plan is right now as far as the contract. What I do want though, and I think that Vanessa can get involved with this, with your group, I think we gotta put more teeth into this retention program. We really do. I mean, I don't know the companies, I don't know how they're being selected either. I know you got 1,000 companies, we'll set up an A, B, and a C bucket. Give me some retention numbers, where are we at today, how many are we losing, how many are coming, how many are going, those numbers, that's a true retention program.
Okay.
This is good here, what we have, but I just need to know more about what's happening with the retention side.
Now, when I asked in regards to how that list comes up, in regards to what we are supposed to interact with for the EDC, in the past, I know that the list that we had, that the chamber was responsible for, was that anyone the EDC gave a grant to, a loan to, or relocated here, something like that. Is that,
No,
is
we-
that
no,
part of
we-
the extensive
we got
list?
it.
Maybe it's verbally, but we don't.
I don't
No, it wasn't in
know.
DeSoto.
We're just-
It wasn't in DeSoto.
Okay,
Let me
we're-
say this, it
okay,
wasn't in DeSoto.
okay, no,
It
we're
was
talking
in
all
another
companies,
city.
right?
Yeah.
You're talking all companies, right? Which is
Yes.
all companies that
Okay.
reside in the city of DeSoto.
Right.
I just don't think there's a good system by which, you know, if you say you're running the top ones and all the top ones are in the A bucket, it might be revenue driven, it might be
Right.
employee driven, I don't know what it is.
So
It's
my
in a B
list,
bucket
my list is
and a C
based
bucket.
on taxes, like how much sales tax they generate, cause those
Okay,
are the
good.
heavy hitters
That's a
in
good
DeSoto.
basis, yeah.
Those are the most important
great
ones
basis.
to us to,
That's
I mean,
right.
all of them are important, but
That's right.
in theory, the sales tax generators are the ones that are more important, and we need to keep those.
Keep those,
Yeah.
And that makes sense. If that's the case, then that's fine. I just didn't know how this list of who we visited correlated with what the EDC was asking for. I just didn't understand.
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest that Vanessa get with you.
That's exactly right.
I will do that.
I was
And-
gonna
I
say
will
the same
do that.
thing, you
Yeah.
guys
Yeah.
get together.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
And figure it
I will
out,
do
and come
that.
back to us.
I can do
That's
that.
fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can do that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
I do not.
Thank you for consulting and working with the group. Are you guys getting in a pretty good direction, or you feel like you're getting in a good direction?
We actually do. It's a journey, and we have said before, our challenge is, right now, we have a group of volunteers who have their own jobs outside of somewhere else, and getting them all together, try to create this and make this one, the chamber better. It's just a time consuming, it's just, but it's coming together step by step. And that's kind of what we're looking for. I wanna do it right, not fast right now. Okay?
Thank you, sir. Any more questions for Mr. Gomez?
A generator report
Sure.
for the city and so.
Thank you very much. I am gonna step out, cause I got another text. I have
Go get some utilities.
I got
Go
a
get some
school,
lights on.
I got a school that's out right, I got a school that's out in Red Oak, so I'm happy.
Thank you for joining us now.
Thank you.
Oh.
You can have the inside.
So sorry. You have my stuff up. I'm so used to the chamber stuff.
All right, thank you, guys. Item number 4, financial status report presentation by Melissa Adams,
Tab
County
4.
Manager, City of DeSoto.
Tab 4, page 56, board.
Good, that's 456.
Morning.
Morning. How you doing, Mr. Lee? How you doing? Yes, ma'am, we're ready.
We'll start with, page 56, the balance sheet as of May 31st. The total assets are $3,418,025. Checking and savings account for $3,320,083. The revolving loans account for $97,942. And the total liabilities and fund balance, also account for $3,418,025. If you go on to page 57, the revenues and expenditures for the 8 months ending May 31st. Total revenues are $1,648,214. $1,367,086 of that is sales tax. The incubator rent accounts for $169,577. The total expenditures are $2,088,820. Grants and commitments account for $1,174,500. And operations and admin account for $551,235, with a net income of negative $440,606. Page 58 is a graph of the revenues and expenditures. Total revenues account for $1,648,215, and expenditures account for $2,088,820. The next page is the month-to-date figures through May 31st. Total revenue accounts for $254,142. Sales tax accounted for $232,541 of that. Total expenditures were $276,838. Grants and commitments accounted for $200,000 of that, with a net income of negative $22,696. Page 60 is a summary of the sales tax revenue. Currently, year-to-date, the budgeted sales tax amount was $1,750,000. The actual year-to-date figure is $1,367,086. That's 78% of the budgeted sales tax for the year. If you go on to your next page, 61 through 62, is a further breakdown of the year-to-date figures by line item. Currently, the only items that are over the budget amount are the developmental materials that account for 143.6% of the budget, and the operations for Brook Hollow are at 140.3% of the budgeted amount. If you go on to page 63, that is a graph of your expenses year-to-date. Currently, the year-to-date figure is $2,088,820. Grants and commitments account for 56.2% of that, with $1,174,500. The operating and admin account for 15.5% at $324,340. Total long-term debt accounts for 13% of that at $271,588. And personnel accounts for 10.8% of that at $225,584. And promotions account for 4.38% at $91,497.
What's the long-term debt? What's the total, cause it's not grants, commitments. What is
The
it?
long-term debt is heliport and I think infrastructure and probably the industrial park.
Industrial park, okay.
I believe that's the two things that the board years ago had borrowed money for, and I don't know exactly when they pay off.
Yeah, and so your long-term debt is $271,000 right now, $588, and the only thing left to pay is your interest for this year, which will be in August. So that'll take you to your total of $303,938.
Okay.
And the next couple of pages, 64 and 65, are again your month-to-date versus your year-to-date expenditures and revenues by line item. You have any questions on those? And lastly is your, let's see, we have your, the last graph is page 66, which are your budgeted expenses year-to-date. And your budgeted expenses of $3,644,015. Your current year-to-date is $2,088,820. Do you have any questions?
I just have a question. Okay, currently today, what's available for grants? What's available today, right? Which page is that?
Your grants are gonna be page 62. It's in your grant and commitment section. Currently, well, your budget is $2,294,167, and currently you've spent $1,174,500. So that leaves $1,119,667.
Where are you at on this? You said
Page 62.
Uh-huh.
And under your grants and commitments.
Right here.
Yeah, right there.
Okay, okay. So it's about $1 million?
Yes.
Okay, from there to there, I got you.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for us?
Yeah, well, we talked about this $40,000 over here. Do we decide we're gonna write that off, or
for, then you guys will have to just let me know what you guys wanna do with that 40,000, if you wanna write that off or not. And we can let them know.
I don't think much of a chance to get there.
You're talking about.
Yeah, back on
Yeah,
the-
yeah, I think those two are in question.
How long has it been?
I don't know.
We're into a year, aren't we?
I think it's been a full
Yeah.
year, hasn't it, Joe?
Okay, about a year on this?
Maybe more than a year.
Probably more than a year?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, we're into it pretty deep. I don't know about the third one either, if that's gonna happen either, so.
Which one's the third?
That would be your, top five,
Okay.
What, no, what?
the top five. So I think she was here and said that we just needed to send them a note or something, email, I think, just asking that.
The auditors for the 40,000?
With the pen, yes.
Yes, when she was here, she said,
Okay.
she just needed to know what you guys wanted to do, if you
Do
wanted
we
to write
need
that off
to,
or not.
do we need to send that before she comes back up and request it?
I can send them an email,
Yeah, I
just
would,
confirm with.
when you agree, Director Water, we just need to get rid of it. I think it was
Okay.
just sending her something and, she would make the adjustment, I believe. That's what I
Okay.
thought I heard her say.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll just confirm that with her and have her, have you guys send her the email.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else from Melissa? Thank you, Ms. Adams. Tracy, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Down to number 5, the Industry Hub's Activity Summary Report for May 2019 by Terry Toomey, Executive Director of the Industry Hub.
Good morning, everybody.
Board, this is tab 5, late 67.
Okay, you can see by the activity report, we're doing lots of things in the incubator. One of the things that you're gonna see coming up, though, that as we renew leases, the committee is deciding who's gonna be renewed or not. And we're trying to, be as flexible as possible, but we still have things that we need the businesses to perform. And, you know, showing up is 90% of business. And so those who are not opening when they've agreed to will, that'll go in part of the decision of whether we renew their lease or not. And I wanted this to not be, you know, a me decision, because that's just one person's focal point. And I work intensively with these businesses every day, so sometimes personality gets involved, and I don't want this to be a personality-driven decision. And so, we meet every Monday, to consider new applicants. The people.
Refresh my memory, who's on that?
It's Monty, Elena, Joe, Vanessa, Rachel Proctor, and Brandon Moore, who is my social media person. Now, we do have some very exciting things happen, but I haven't really crowed too much about it because we don't know if it's actually gonna happen or not. But Brandon uncovered a lead to get an interview with NBC. So as soon as he did that, he handed that off to Dalila, who is my PR person, and she developed the lead and got James interviewed on NBC. Well, as soon as we got the active link on that, he put it up on his site, and within hours, he had almost 1,300 shares. And that means that everybody on James's list, and then everybody else who saw that, who shared with their community. James has been approached by possibly being on the Today Show, and another approach by the Ellen DeGeneres Show. Now, whether they actually happen, I don't know or not, we don't know yet because it's not a commitment, but the advantage of a company like James, it's an evergreen topic. He can be on any time. It's not seasonally, something, so if it doesn't happen immediately, they could put him on a list of, you know, when they have a light show, then bring him in. What I would be angling for, and, is for James to actually go on and do a chef demo.
That's at the vegan restaurant, trying to figure out who James is.
Yeah, and so that's what, you know, we'll pitch to them, is let him come on and do the chef demo. And then I've talked to James directly, because I don't know how many of you have ever been on a national TV show, but it's very high pressure. You're very nervous, because you've never been in front of, I mean, he'll be in front of millions of people, and internationally as well. And so what we're trying to do is get him accustomed to thinking for that audience. And if you think you're gonna take your 3 children to New York and have them on the show, well, you have to be in the studio at 5 a.m. and you may not be on until 7:30. But children don't do well in those environments. I mean, whoever of you have seen children interviews, involved in interviews. And so that's why we wanna really go for the chef demo. So whether it happens or not, it's still, it's still a great opportunity for us to think about that. And think of the number of incubators across the country. If we get that, that would be enormous. And it'll help fuel our intake of potential customers who want to come in and be part of the incubator.
I know a couple of months ago, there was a question of whether James is gonna stay there.
Yeah, he's settled down.
Okay.
Because what we did was sat down, I sat down with him, Monty sat down with him, I think Joe may have had a conversation with him. What I am trying to get all of them to realize is this is an education environment. So don't make quick decisions, because you really don't know the questions to ask. So I know that, somebody in, I think it was Cedar Hill, was offering him office space at $1,500, which is comparable to what he's paying us. But they didn't tell him what the back office part of it was. So the triple net, they didn't explain any of that, and he didn't know to ask. And so I sat down with him and said, here are the things you need to understand. And before you make any of those leaps, come back to me. We'll get somebody in to come in and educate you, and whoever thinks they want to go into a retail space, on what you need to understand before you sign a lease. So if you're signing just a straight lease and you're triple net, if that heating system goes out, who pays for that? You. And they don't know to ask those questions. And so part of what we're doing is that education process. You can see we've had a number of events. Our next event is July 4th. We're going to be putting on a big push to get people to come to that. We made a request to the interim city manager for the fireworks in the evening. We've asked if they will have a bus stop at the incubator so people can park at the incubator. We have about 500 parking spaces. Have them park there and have the bus pick them up and take them to the fireworks. We haven't heard back from them yet. And we're gonna have an event, of hot dogs and chips and a drink. They have to pre-register, so we know how many are coming. And then the businesses will be open on July 4th. Now you will see when you come in, Nappy and Happy is not renewing their lease. They're left when you come in, so that will be vacant. And then the Shoe-esque is, they're moving to a different location. And that will be good for them too, because we really were not their audience. And so they've been troopers, they've been there every day, they've been open, but they're gonna go to a new location. And so that's all part of the first one, yes. So those two, we're trying to get somebody in there to fill those 2 slots as fast as possible. But we want, as the businesses come in, or as the customers come in, we're really looking to see what's the primary company that we could put in there. Now, here's the reality. We have a whole bunch of industries that are not represented yet. We have nothing for infants and children. We don't have any like leather goods shops. We don't have any pottery shops. I mean, there's a whole range of companies that we could go after to be in there. So if you know somebody who is doing any kind of craft kinds of things that you think would do well, we would love to talk to them. So, I mean, it's your job as well as mine to be on the scout for companies and send them to me or Joe or Vanessa, so that we can start talking to them. I'm gonna let you ask questions, because I think I put everything else in here. Now, we are, and on the training programs, I did 3 customer service events which got no traction at all. And I think it's the attitude that because they've been in business that everybody thinks they understand customer service. I wanna tell you, customer service people get training all the time, and that's their job, and they get ongoing training. And so for any business to consider you, to think you know everything about customer service that was an eye-opener for me, that we got no traction for that. I had 6 classes scheduled. I canceled after 3, and then I came up with the nimble marketing. Because what our businesses, what the small businesses don't understand is you need to be constantly scanning the market. What are the trends? What's working? What's not working? And they're just, I think a lot of them are of the attitude that I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Well, the market doesn't care what you wanna do. The market only cares about what the market wants. And so that is to get them attuned to, you need to be flexible, you need to be responding, you need to understand what new trends are happening. If purple was the big color last year and orange is the big color this year and all of your stock is in purple, well, you've missed the market. But they need to understand to have low inventory and be constantly moving the inventory that they have. And so that's part of what we're training on. I'm looking at some technology things about how we can change things and make it more responsive to our market. So, I mean, those of you who know me, is like, I am just moving all the time, trying to figure out, okay, this didn't work. What's the next thing? What can we do that will work? And so it's just a constant juggling. So do you have any questions for me? You can see we've gotten some major press coverage.
I think that's outstanding. I call you a busy bee, but you're doing a lot, and the media coverage is, that's gold.
I'm sorry, I know I'm not a part of the board, but I just wanted to understand who was leaving and who was staying at the incubator space. You said the hat lady was leaving.
Oh, no, she's not leaving.
Not leaving, she's moving to a different space.
Within the incubator.
Within the incubator.
Yeah.
The photographer, is he staying?
He is not staying. Virginia's moving into his spot,
The hat lady.
the hat lady.
Okay, and then the Nappy Happy is.
Nappy Happy is she decided not to renew. Shoe-esque is moving to a new location
Inside of your space?
outside.
Okay, so they're moving
And-
out.
And then, and Alwyn is, or the, I don't know what you call his
The
product,
hair-
hair
yeah.
products.
He's graduating
He's
out.
moving to his own facility within the marketplace,
Just
but not in the
outside and around the
incubator.
corner, or kind of close to the cleaners in that area. And of course, some
And then what
people
about
are
the
renewing-
jury lady, is she still staying as well?
Oh, no, but she only sold bracelets,
Uh-huh.
and then, she really didn't have enough product. And the good thing about an incubator setting is that people learn what they don't like to do. And so, retail is grueling. You have to be there every day, you have to be there during your, advertised hours, whether you sell anything or not. And then, I talked to one of our, tenants that we renewed, and I said, so think about your space, what you're paying. So it was a small space, you're paying $350 a month. If you were in a big mall, you'd be paying $3,500 a month. And go look at the traffic in the big malls. We are ahead of the trend for traffic in comparison to the bigger malls because we're driving it with events. And so, it's that constant ongoing battle of trying to drive people into the incubator, and we're doing it with events. Okay, I'm here for any questions.
Renewal for leases are coming up, most of them in June, July, so, and we don't know some of them if they're renewing or not, or whether we want them to renew. That's
What about the food trucks? Any information on them? Are they all staying?
I don't have anything to do with them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. They're just,
that's not part, it's part of the incubator process. The shells and tails, the ones doing really well.
Right.
Monty was here earlier and
Oh,
mentioned
okay.
he's buying the building right next door to it.
right,
So.
that's what I thought.
But that's a
Okay.
separate thing
Okay.
altogether. Yep.
Do we have a report on their actual sales? Seemed like I saw something.
Yes, I get a report monthly from each of them, and then, what I do is I just monitor that for their trends. And then what I'm trying to get them to understand is that first year in business, all you're doing is developing a baseline. So what months are you gonna have good sales, what months are you gonna have bad sales? And so that helps give them a planning mechanism for the next year. It's like, Sheer Elegance, bought a lot of inventory in December. Well, when that inventory came due, when she had to pay for it was in January and February, which were her lowest months. And so it almost sunk her. And so that's part of what we're trying to sensitize them to is you need to understand what your sales cycle is so that you can make good business decisions. And so they're learning that, and then we're here to help them. Any other questions?
Great job.
Yeah, and what, Councilman Burke, this probably can usually understand, we have made a investment into that incubator in terms of our board. We gave, what was it, $27,000 or $28,000, what was it, Joe?
Oh, for additional marketing?
We were trying to drum up, traffic into that incubator. And what I think, and that's just for your understanding, what I think I want to see going forward, I'd like to see, and maybe the board I'm looking at the social media results, I kind of see those results, we spent $216, but I need to understand more of the results that you're getting from the events that you're kind of having. What are those results? Do we see better traffic? Do we see better revenue in those particular time frames?
Okay.
Is what I think I'd like to see as a report. I don't know about you more.
I'll include that. Okay. And then as far as your discussion earlier about the WBE, I had a training program for all of the incubators, and we opened this up to the chamber as well. We had the NCTRA.
North Central Texas.
Yeah,
Regional.
had them come in and do a training program. I had somebody from the city of Dallas, and I had somebody from DeSoto procurement come in. And one of our small tenants got, he's a contractor, got a contract with the city that day. And then, they're still not certified, but we put in the application, and I know that a couple of them, have gotten response back from the city of Dallas. I've talked to the procurement officer here, he's gonna come back in, cause he was waiting to get some kind of approval from city council, which I think he got. And now we'll be developing more programs to help small businesses understand how to do contracting.
My wife and I eat out probably 95% of the time. And we were down in Trinity Grove, and the people in Trinity Grove knew about the vegan place in DeSoto.
About the what?
The vegan place
Oh,
in
yeah,
DeSoto.
gotcha.
They knew about
James
it.
done a great job.
Yeah, so congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
incredible.
And I think that Thai-Bin is gonna be a big draw as well. I mean, it's really Asian food, and as he begins developing his traffic, this is not his first rodeo. He's run a restaurant before, so he understands how hard it is, and he's gotta build his audience, but I think he's gonna be a success. And then, Mary and the, KB Cakes. KB Cakes has been doing a lot of catering for the city, so, her reputation is getting out there.
You mentioned that you don't really spill into the food trucks. Who handles that part of it? Because Monty does.
Yeah.
Okay.
We leased just the area that used to be Ace Hardware, none of the buildings on the side, on either side. We have nothing to do with that, or the parking lot, although we know kind of what, they do, but that is all, that's all outside of our lease. We lease just that 26,000 square feet. And by the way, the EDC, to get that all built out and utilities and everything, put $265,000 of our money in it. The city put $125,000 their money. Monty matched that with $125,000 of his money to get the thing up and running. And we've added a little bit more with marketing. We were breaking even, and then then we decided to give them another $4,000 a month in marketing money, and that's kind of what happened, we were no longer working even. But I think next year's gonna be better. There's some tenants in there that really wanna work and really wanna be entrepreneurs.
Well, pray to the Today Show gods and let's get us that placement.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to, before I move on to item number 6, I'd like to thank Councilwoman Raphael for coming by and saying hello to us. Councilwoman Marks, thank you for joining our meeting.
Thank you.
And Isaac Cameron, thanks for showing up. We're going to item number 6, DEC's trip to the International Council of Shopping Centers Conference in Las Vegas, reported by Vanessa Barrios. Research and Business Development Manager. Thank you.
This is tab 7, page 73. Board, y'all may remember last month, International Council of Shopping Centers Conference was the same time as our meeting, our board meeting, but not just that. Perry and I had a really good industrial prospect, and that's the reason I didn't go. I asked Vanessa to go, and I wanted her to give you a report kind of what she learned at her first time. I've been many times, but the International Council of Shopping Centers is a huge convention, worldwide. It fills up Las Vegas. It's that large. 32 acres under the roof, and it boosts of every imaginable. But anyway, I'll tell you all about it.
All right, good morning, everybody. So this is just a brief report on contacts that I made, meetings that I had, and it's broken down by categories. So the first category is market analysis and research, and Councilwoman Raphael was actually the one that kind of spearheaded that, I guess, search or wanting me to meet with providers of data platforms, because there's so much data out there. And especially when it comes to retail, there's a lot of companies that can give you location-based analysis, that can help you with site selection. And so I met with 4 of them, and 3 of the 4 are location-based retail intelligence platforms. So they track data for millions of cell phone users. They can provide forecasting, geofencing, and then they can actually also tell us how successful a potential retailer will be in a specific site, and also provide local market research. Another one it's just a full-service retail recruitment firm. So similar to the Retail Coach, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Retail Coach, but they basically will come to your community, assess your retail situation, and then recruit retailers based on your demographics. So the meetings were great, and again, these are just platforms that we would have to, I guess, contract with. So again, that would probably be a decision made by the board to see if we would go forward with them. And then going forward, the next one was an experiential retailer called Flying T Golf. They're similar to Topgolf, but they're on a much smaller scale, and they're based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And it's like a dining and golf entertainment venue. And they're actually interested in North Dallas right now, and they said they did speak to a couple of southern Dallas cities, so that's a good thing. So I gave them our demographic info, all of the marketing info that we have created, and so we'll be, we've been in contact, so they're currently looking for sites to establish themselves. The next one was a retail grocer, and they're actually based out of Asheville, North Carolina. They're called Earth Fair, and it just so happens that we have a grocery that left DeSoto, so I think this would be a great opportunity for us to take advantage or look at this particular grocer. They're an organic food grocery, and they haven't really expanded into the Midwest or Texas, but they're looking at. So it's kind of like we planted a seed, we exchanged information, so that's to be determined. The next one, everybody knows Planet Fitness. They have a criteria, and in your page you can see what their criteria is. We have several locations in DeSoto that meet that criteria, so we've exchanged information with them, and hopefully you'll see a Planet Fitness here soon. And then finally, the last one is restaurants, which is what everybody wants. So I spoke to Jersey Mike's, CKE Restaurants, who have Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, Inspire Brands, which are Arby's, Sonic, Buffalo Wild Wings, and Rusty Taco. Focus Brands, there's a list of all of them. The one that particularly had interest in DeSoto was Moe's Southwest Grill. I don't know if you guys have ever tried Moe's, but there's one in Dallas Love Field. But
They're
it's
kind
kinda
of
like,
Chipotle.
yeah, Chipotle,
Yeah.
Tex-Mex, yeah. So, it's a fast casual diner, it's good, yeah, it's reasonably priced, so. And then the next one was First Watch Cafe, so they actually only have one location in DFW, and it's in Arlington. And they're only open from like 7 AM to 2:30, so they're focusing on that morning, brunch style type of, client. And then the next one is Grub Burger Bar. Again, that's another emerging brand. You don't see them all over the place. They're just looking to expand into southern Dallas. And then the last one, of course, is Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A, nobody wants more chicken places in DeSoto, but I mean, I think if we got a Chick-fil-A, that would be great.
One of the things, back at the market analysis and research, one of the companies offered to do a sample for us, and so I asked her to take the old Albertson location and do a 1 mile, 3 mile, 5 mile
Yep.
ring, and give us all the demographics in that area. So if you want to see it, I'll be glad to share it with anyone. That particular area is a fairly high income area.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nice houses, so.
And the report was very interesting that they provided. It actually, from talking to people that are currently trying to vet prospects for the Albertsons location, everybody tells us that we don't have population density. That report actually counters what everybody says. When it comes to population density, income, demographics, we meet the criteria. Cause I think the actual prospect or what they put that site up against was like a Subway or a sandwich shop. And I mean, it meet the criteria. You can see in the report, it says it's green, there's a lot of green, and red would be, it doesn't meet it, but, we can share that report with you.
So why don't you go ahead and make them a copy and
Yeah, I can
bring it
bring
back
it.
in a few minutes, and if that's okay.
Yeah,
If everybody wants to see it.
there were a lot of cities from Dallas at the conference, and, me just talking to them, one of the cities actually said that this year they had like 30 client meetings. And so how they did that was they hired a consultant to basically, set up those meetings for them. In the past, they said they had about 8 to 10, and, this past year they had about 30, and that city was Forney. I don't know if you guys are, but Forney's growing, and, so they have their maps, and they actually had a corner space at the event. I don't know if that would be something that would benefit us. I think historically, the West Southwest region as a group should go and represent our area. I think an individual city probably wouldn't do as well, so,
We
that's
did
just
have
something we could think
a
about.
booth space at International Council Shopping Center, is what they call the Red River District, which is Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma. And that was in Fort Worth last year. I think it moves to San Antonio or Austin next year. But anyway, she helped us work the booth.
Yeah, she worked,
Yeah, she helped work the booth, and we.
So we plan on doing that again, Joe?
I would think so. That's a fairly inexpensive one to do. Las Vegas is not, and Las Vegas. And the nice thing about working it used to be all the Texas, whatever, it was just Texas, they just expanded it. But, you knew that everyone there, all the retailers that were there, all wanted to be in Texas. In Las Vegas, it's a crapshoot.
Everybody's
You
there.
never know. You get so many people, you meet them, and then they say, oh, we just cover the East Coast or West Coast or whatever, and you waste a lot of your time, and it is so huge.
It is.
I know Dr. Richard would love to go to that every year, and last year, I said, do you want me to go? And he said, I've got you handled. So so I didn't go last year, that's fine. I mean, I've been numerous times.
Do we need to be there?
Sorry?
Do we need to be there?
You probably need to be there. We need to send at least 1 or 2 people, I think. This past year, I didn't go because of board meeting and we had industrial prospect.
And the other cities that I
Important.
spoke with, they said that, you need to set up these meetings like The meetings are set up like months in advance.
That's the key to it. You
Yeah.
should start working on
Meetings
meetings
are-
right now for next year.
Right.
Because when I went, the first couple times I went direct to Water, you just kind of walk around, it's so massive.
It is.
You don't have anybody to touch, and then the third time I went, we had meetings. And that made it a much better conference, so you need to work working right now, so I can get those things ready to go for right now, so.
See what, Forney, who they hired and what it costs, yes. Okay.
That was my question was, you said Forney was one of the ones, and are you familiar with their EDC department?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay,
We,
so
I
it's a
have
small.
one of them, oh, yeah, so I've gotten the information. They contracted the old, director for Frisco EDC, he's no longer there, Jim Gandy, and the old Bastrop EDC guy, what's his name? Anyway, so he actually became an employee at Frisco EDC, so they started their own consulting firm. And I think they charged them like $10,000 or $8,000 or something, to basically schedule those meetings for them. Yeah. Little Elm was also there, and the lady, or the director there, I kinda shadowed her a little bit. She's been doing this for a very long time, and she was very forthcoming, very transparent, so it was a good experience for me, just to see, she's like, you know, this is how you kinda navigate the show. So it was good. So thank you for.
Dave Quinn is really trying.
Yes, Dave Quinn, yes.
And I know the lady in Little Round too, can't remember her name now.
What the Jersey Mike's at, are they?
Yeah, they're interested, so, so the
They're not in the
restaurants,
southern tier though, I think they're only mid-local.
yes,
Where
there's
is it?
one in Mansfield.
There's one in-
And so
one
most
in
of
Richmond.
these,
Those are Richardson, yeah, but the
Yeah.
southern tier, they're scheduled.
and so that's the thing, so a lot of these, they're looking for, like, they have franchisees that are just currently looking for locations. Like, they're interested in the southern cities, but they're looking for franchisees, or the franchisee is interested and they're looking for a location.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Good job.
Any questions?
Keep doing a good job.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on, item number 7 is consideration and action to approve Pegasus consulting fee of $2,000 to update the Hampton Road redevelopment project with new recommendations. Okay, Joe?
It's tab 7, page 74, and I don't have a lot to tell you other than, back when the city manager was here, they contracted with Pegasus, the city paid for the study of the Hampton Road corridor, and the short story is that, yes, we can get him back, but he charged $2,000. The city didn't have that budgeted, they wanted to know if the EDC would pick up that tab. We're going to, we've seen his presentation, but it needs to be tweaked a little bit, about doing the overlay district on Hampton Road, what businesses would fit in there, some recommendations that this consultant, he's been around a long time. I've known Sean for 15, 20 years probably. But anyway, we have some money that we could use for consultants, and $2,000 is just his. And at that point, we want to make sure that, I suggested to the mayor that we have a joint meeting between the EDC and the city council for him to come in and make his presentation, and then we can ask lots of questions about it. And that's what I'm asking for is y'all, I know I have a limit of $1,000 on what I can commit to, so anything over that, I come to you to get approved.
I'm not clear on what services he provided.
The services provided, he came in and did an analysis, and he's focused on the Hampton Road corridor. And if he looks at all of DeSoto, but he's focused on that. The city owns a lot of property. Let me show you all that's property up and down Hampton Road that the city, everything in those red blocks is what the city had bought in years past. They had gone to the voters and asked for the right to issue bonds to buy these properties. And so now, in fact, that's on our agenda, I think, next. And this consultant, it just has to be paid to come to make a trip up here and do a half-day seminar or whatever he needs to do to explain it to council and us about his recommendations. And, you know, I've looked it over, I know there's some things on there that's gonna be controversial. He looked at leakage, or how much, is being bought outside the community, that those are the things we need to target. One of them was liquor stores, believe it or not, so, I mean, that would take an election, I realize, but, Cedar Hill just passed it. We were talking to a consultant just last week, I guess it was, and he says the property along the DeSoto border, in Cedar Hill, but right there's some vacant property there, right at our border.
It's
He
Beltline
said-
and Duncanville Road. I think
Where-
it's
where is
Beltline and Duncanville Road.
Beltline and
Yep.
Yeah,
On that
yeah.
corner there?
Yeah.
Yes,
There's
it's a
some-
corner, yep.
That's
It's a hard
probably
corner.
where specs is going, we've got people looking at that corner
Mm.
because they know that
Mm.
there's just a lot of leakage. Right now, I'm not a big drinker, but if I wanted something, I'd have to go to, the closest place would be Glen Heights. Yeah, so, I'm not jumping on just that one item, but there's lots of things in this study that this consultant has looked at.
So he's doing a study to determine what would be best to put in
Yeah,
these locations?
what's best,
Okay.
how the Hampton Road corridor could be developed, and then he makes overall recommendations to the organization. The city, and I wanna say the city paid him about $19,000 or something, 6 months ago to do this study. And now we decided, you know, he really needs to come back and follow up and not just give us the slideshow, but also explain all the slideshow. And I just feel like, you know, the $2,000 probably well spent if we have a joint meeting with the city council.
Cause he sent the report, cause I had the report and I looked at the report, so
Yeah.
he's coming back with 2,000 to explain.
Explain it, but before we, I talked to Renee.
You need to break it down.
What did I understand about the report?
That's really, yeah.
We get no more than just an explanation on the
He
report?
he came one time and explained to city staff, or went over some of his, this was his draft recommendations. What we want to do now, Renee, about, interim city manager, I talked about, we want to get him on a conference call and tweak it a little bit on the staff level, but then have him come back in and make a presentation to the board and the city council.
Well, we didn't make a presentation on the city council.
He hasn't made, council, presentation, made council to staff.
Yeah, I think he just sent it by
Okay,
email,
when
right?
did he do that?
That was, I got it,
6 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 6, 7 weeks ago, then we got on a call with him, correct?
Yeah.
We were on a call with
We
him.
were on the call with him and talked to him a little bit, but he's on.
But the council paid for it, and he's only briefed the staff.
Yeah, he's
If I
talked to
were
us.
the council, I'd say, why aren't you here briefing me? Why do we need to pay another $2,000? And come out of here.
You mean,
I mean, the council paid for
Oh,
this.
the consultant, we had nothing to do with that.
Yes, now they want us to step up, he wants, or whoever wants to step up, so he'll come down and talk to us, and if I spend, how much did this council spend?
$19,000.
19?
I think about.
It's at 19,000.
Right.
On the report.
This was Dr. Richardson's project that I was not involved in. I just happened to know the guy.
You got anything on this, Isaac?
No, I'm not sure how much was spent on the report.
I see you got 19.
I knew this, I remember.
Said 19?
Dr. Richardson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pegasus.
Yeah, thanks. You might wanna, send, Councilman, Byrd the report. You might wanna look at the report. I mean, I saw it, went through it. It's pretty high level. I think it's 50,000 feet up. I don't think it's drilling in at 10,000 feet where we can sit and say, I mean, there's some things that he feels we can be good at, but how do we get good at those? What do you do? Where do you go? And I didn't see that detail. Is that 2,000 gonna bring you that kind of detail?
The detail I understand is he explains every one of those slides, and that's, I mean, he drills down verbally a little more than what he sent us on.
So no for the written report, just a,
No, it's a written report, I mean, it's a
no
written slideshow.
no supplement to that, or?
Not that I know of. Like I said, we were not involved in any of this.
No,
This was Dr.
We might have to look at the agreement and see, I
Yeah,
don't
I've
think anybody
never
would
seen
agree
the
to spend
agreement.
$19,000 without some type of review of findings,
Right.
but without, we'll look at every.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Can I get a copy of that?
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just a draft, I mean, this is,
Oh, okay.
this is not the final, so,
Yeah.
you have to take that into consideration when you do others.
Okay.
It's not.
What's in here?
Which side of the road down there, Beltline and,
It's on the south side. So if you're driving to DeSoto on Beltline Road and then Beltline and Duncanville Road, it's gonna be on the right-hand side, south
Same
side.
people own both of those pieces of property.
Yeah, and it's really close to that Walmart, what is it, the neighborhood market,
Wait a minute, I thought you said Duncanville, it's Belt.
Beltline and Duncanville Road.
Yeah, let's see.
It is,
The
it
Cedar
is.
Hill one.
Or 1382, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
You.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry, FM 1382 and Duncanville Road.
Yeah.
On the south side.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Isn't that the same?
Down here, right here. Somewhere in that area, they said that's gonna be a hot spot.
Yeah, that's where the welcome to Cedar Hill sign is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I can see
yeah,
you in my
that's
head,
that
guys.
sign that right there, yeah, going into
Yeah,
Cedar
uh-huh,
Hill, right?
mhm.
Yeah, they just put that up a year and a half
So it's,
ago.
it's like the property to,
Wow.
when you're driving towards Cedar Hill, it's gonna be on the left.
Like a little farm.
There is a retirement center is it on the same side where the,
It is, it's close to that.
okay, where the retirement center is?
I mean, so it makes perfect sense, right?
Retire and drink a lot.
Yes, yes.
It's called Enjoy.
Enjoying life.
Well, Joe, send that out to the board if you will, good report, and then it sounds like we in favor to do what here, to not do anything at this moment, is that correct?
It was a request from Renee, the interim city manager, that we pay for this, so that's up to y'all.
Well, I guess, I think where it sounds like, well, this is where I land, it kind of sounds like once we get more detail what the 2,000 is for, then maybe we can bring it back and discuss that, maybe start with a conference call or something, just to get detail of what is the $2,000 about, after Councilman Byrd does his investigation. That's where
Yeah.
we go.
Get a little more info.
Yep, we're going to talk.
Okay, back to you next month, if,
Then we'll talk to, the drainage unit back down. Okay, all right, thank you guys, we're gonna take no action on that. I'm going over to item number 8, which is discussion and action to authorize the DEC's chief executive officer to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement with the city of DeSoto for the purchase and resale of the city property to Ames Center for Health and Wellness, PLLC, and to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement with Ames Center for Health and Wellness, PLLC, for the resale of the city property to the Ames Center for Health and Wellness, PLLC, including a restriction agreement and any amendments or instruments related thereto.
Board, y'all may remember about, a year ago, I guess, I brought you Project Doctor. Y'all authorized $100,000 of EDC money. The city has a lot here, I believe it's 501 Northampton Road, small lot there for a doctor's office building. And, I think Pete can explain it probably better than I can, so I'll just
Yeah.
turn it over to you.
Yeah, so so in order for the city to sell city property, they have to do either an auction or competitive bids, or they can transfer the property to an independent foundation for resale to the ultimate user. In this case, the EDC is being the independent foundation. We've used this type of device before, such as at the heliport and some other properties. So what this does is authorize Joe to negotiate and execute a purchase and sale agreement with the city. And we're gonna purchase the property and simultaneously sell it to AIM Health Center, on which they're going to build a approximately 4,800 square foot medical office facility. And we have a restriction agreement that requires them to construct within a certain period of time, complete within a certain period of time required. Gives us option to buy it back if they don't go forward. and also it restricts the use of that property for that project. And there's a incentive agreement which you previously approved to provide up to $100,000 for infrastructure for the project. You already approved the EDC agreement. We're in the process of updating all the documents, get it to their attorney, and it's gonna be on the city council's agenda coming up for the council to authorize the negotiation execution of the contract with the EDC for the resale of AIM. So I'll answer any questions if you have any.
It's the same thing we did for the skilled nursing center.
Right.
Project. And there'll probably be more as comes down the road. It's not costing us anything to accept the property and transfer it to the doctors.
Do we need action or just give it the directive?
No, just motion to approve item 8.
Well,
Motion to approve item A.
need a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay. The ayes have it. Motion passed. Thank you. Before we move into the executive session piece, I wanted to just give you guys an update. And Joe, I hope you're sending this out to everyone. Joe sent a nice article on the dollar stores. Did anybody read that article?
You and the mayor.
Okay, well, spread it out to the board. Very, very nice article on how other communities are handling Dollar General and Dollar Tree and all those kind of deals. So you guys might wanna look at that and just read it for things going forward. Also, Joe went to a convention and he started telling me about this one speaker. Can you speak a little bit about this guy? And I had him buy the books because this is about cities and how they're being developed today.
This guy was just, been a long time economic development, mostly in Oklahoma, but he's from Texas. He was speaker at the Texas Economic Development Council meeting last week, no, week before, I'm sorry. And, I thought he was interesting, so I ordered his books off Amazon and, ordered Perry set, and I'm sure he'll show, we can share with you whatever. But he talks about things that successful cities do. He also talks about all the things that go wrong, and he had some interesting things. I thought one of the interesting things that he noted that it seemed like especially small cities want restaurants, and a lot of cities resist getting apartments. He said apartments, when you have a concentration of people, that helps get restaurants. And also normally, people that live in apartments won't impact the school districts as much as single family housing. It seems like we're okay with single family housing, but a lot of councils and things are kind of resistant to multifamily projects. And I was visiting with a developer just last week about a property he owns just off of Interstate 35, but he said, he got a bad reception both from us and the city on wanting apartments. He called it workforce housing, but he said not Section 8 housing, just that we build less expensive apartments so people working in our the buildings in the industrial park, so they have a place to live. And so, it's chicken and egg. I realize that some people don't want to have apartments, but if you want restaurants, it needs a concentration of people. And that's one of the things he suggested. He had other things. He talked about how project work well, the city and the EDC working together. That's what we want to always make sure that happens. But he said a lot of times it doesn't work that way. He also talked about horror stories about where mayor or council member or certain people within the city own property, and then it was benefiting them personally. So you get all that, and I'm only about a third way through with the first book, so I don't know that much. And you can only talk for an hour, so I think it's pretty good stuff.
Thank you very much. By the way, guys, the office is working hard. That office in there works. Cynthia, to Vanessa, to Joe, and Councilwoman Raphael, thank you for your comments a couple weeks ago when I spoke with you. They are looking at those developers the exact way that you talked about, understanding criteria, understanding if we match that criteria to what that corner bakery is looking for, and so on and so forth. So thank you for your input. So I'd like to go now into D, which is executive session under Texas Government Code. Texas Government Code, section 551.087, economic development deliberation. Number one is deliberation and discussion regarding the economic development incentives for Project Methodist. Number two is deliberation and discussion regarding the grant program application for Sustacia Enterprises LLC for paving improvements phase 2. And we'll take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll go into session. Well, we're coming out of the executive session at 11:25 with no action, and we will go to our last item of the agenda, which is a briefing by our Chief Executive Officer.
All right. Board, my monthly report, just very quickly, first part, you already heard from Vanessa about the International Council Shopping Centers. Perry and I did meet in executive session with the council to briefly discuss Project Germany. We also talked about incentive packages for Fuzzy's Taco and Tom Thumb. We have nothing to do with either one of those projects, but wanted to y'all be aware that we are having meetings concerning that. Attending the quarterly meeting with the Dallas marketing team. That's if you look at back in the next slide, 3 pages from the bottom back, about 4 pages back, is a list of attraction activity. It starts off with projects. I don't know what was not numbered. The page 3 on my page, this little blue handout. I know we get a lot of lead generation from different places. I didn't realize until I started looking. It used to be the governor's office. We got most leads from them, but if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 out of that group is from the Dallas Regional Chamber. They have brought us some good leads lately, and that's someone. I remember when we were doing budget or doing, they had asked us for re-upping our membership or something. I think our membership's $2,500 or something like that. I think that's very worthwhile. I just wanted you all to be aware that the majority of the leads we're getting are from I don't go on a lot of those trips with the Dallas Regional Chamber. They go to Chicago, East Coast, West Coast, all those. If I think it's important, then I'll go, but if it's just I don't want to call them junkets, but if I don't see a direct return on investment, or if it's something that we're not trying to attract, I don't know whether we want to waste money on travel or not. Shows that Terry Toomey and I were interviewed by a reporter for Best Southwest Magazine for an article coming up. I saw the draft, it's pretty good. Perry and I met with some investment partners on the project that they're looking at putting in a shopping center. I told them that they were looking for incentives, and I said, well, it depends on what you want to go in there. If it's going to be something good entertainment, nice restaurants, those kind of things, I feel like that this might be a doable project. When they said something about dollar store or chicken place, I said probably not. I'm not speaking for the board, but I just know that's probably not something I want to incentivize. And so I'm telling all the developers the same thing, which I'll tell me differently. That's what I'm continuing to tell them. Same way with the Albertson store. We've had Barry and I again met with 4 developers on that project, and they're saying, well, we want to divide it up and maybe a dollar store on part of it and Ollie's bargain baseball thing. And I didn't know. I just didn't feel like that's something that y'all would incentivize. I didn't encourage them. At the same time, I don't tell them no. I normally don't tell anyone absolutely drop dead no unless it was something that no doubt that but I'll bring those back to you. You can look it up again. Attending the Texas Economic Development Council mid-year conference in Rockwall. You back and forth, didn't spend any money. But we had some good speakers. I serve on the legislative, the sales tax, and the political action committee. I was invited to speak and testify on a bill this year. Sometime I'm called Austin several times, but this year I'm going to testify on a bill about economic development sales tax. The book that was one of our speaker, the people that wrote that book, and when Perry gets through reading them, I'm sure he'll share it if he thinks it's worth sharing. We already talked about North Central Council of Governments. On page 2, this one with all the numbers on it, this is the chart I give you every month about sales tax allocations. This is the sales tax that was generated 2 months prior, so April, sales in April, primarily. Now, there's some people that pay quarterly, some people, really small business only pay once a year, but most people pay monthly, the bigger companies. You can see our sales tax percentage is up 10.68. We've been down a couple of months this year, and we've been barely up, like 0.11, not even 1%, so we've been up and down this year. Last year we had a good year. We ended the year. That's one of the ways y'all judge me is how our sales tax does. We were up about 11% last year. This particular month we're up 10.68, which brings it to 3.5% or so for the calendar year. I know the city runs their numbers on fiscal year, which starts in October, but the controller's office, this is the way I get it from my contacts at the state controller's office. The scorecard just kind of talks about everything in general, different projects and business retention, internal project things that we're doing as far as with the staff. We give you the scorecard every month, and also the different projects that we've worked on. I was telling Pete earlier in the meeting that this company is going to change the contract that we thought was a done deal. They have leased the building, we know that, but or part of the building, and but I had another prospect that looked even better, that would take the entire building, the whole 948,000 square feet, and create 1,000 jobs. So I really wasn't upset if they want to pull out of this contract. I think I have a good prospect that would be a better product than what we ended up with. So that's one of those things, you never know what's going to happen. You never know, you sign up somebody to be in a building and then something else comes along better. And that happens. We're not going to renege on the thing, or we're not going to back out and say, keep them out or anything. But I did let them know that if they want out of contract, we're not going. I don't think we're going to retreat to the fire and make them do some things that they want. Job creation. That's your usual report on job creation. Page 4. Different companies that we have here. We have people expanding, which is Diab. They're combining the 2 buildings together, closing a place in Dallas and moving their people here. They were going to ask us for money. They got in a big hurry. I said, well, you need to do it ahead of time. You can't ask for incentives after the fact. That's really not the way it's done. And so they haven't asked for anything. I haven't offered anything. So they're combining the 2 companies that seem to be doing well. Same way with Glass Falls. They talk about expansion. The solar turbines with expansion. And when Mayor, our little group, met with NFI, they are talking about expansion in this big building right here. There's not much room to expand out, but they're talking about some kind of expansion going on there. Last page, I think, is the last page of it just shows the unemployment rate and how we compare with other communities at the top. We're pretty well employed. I mean, it's anybody that wants a job pretty much has one. Y'all have any questions for me?
On that one deal you're talking about the summer, are you negotiating that fee, or is he?
I'm sorry,
That
what?
one deal you're talking about?
Global Industries?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you gonna-
we sent the contracts to him, and lawyers sent it back with all kinds of changes and deal point changes, and I emailed them back. I said, look, we're not renegotiating. This is what representative agreed to. We ratcheted down the milestones so they could achieve them, and so I redlined the contract, sent it back with the agreed changes, and they've been dark for about 5 or 6 days now.
Oh, there's dark.
So it's,
I haven't heard anything back from the lawyer. He may be talking to the company or he may be trying to do an end around over to the city, but that was the deal that was made, and they agreed to it, and we're not changing the deal points. Just because the lawyer wants to make a better deal for the company.
This,
this is the.
yeah, this is all attorney driven on their side, not the people that I dealt with, not the city people.
Right.
Not,
This is the attorney.
Remember when we were going to Germany and that lady kept calling me every time the plane stopped? She'd call me, that was Jane. She's okay.
What project is this one?
That's Project Maverick, was what we call it then. It's, Global Industries. They're taking, a little less than 500 million square feet of that, Hillwood building, the $928 square foot building. They've signed the contract, they know they've got it. The city's offered incentives and we're offered the incentives, $100,000 each. We don't want to go back and renegotiate. It's not to our advantage. And like I said, they've already signed a contract with Hillwood. So. Any other questions or comments?
Nope. That's all we got.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, last year, any board announcements? Board announcements?
Well, you know, there's not a public hearing, but the hearing coming up on Blue Dag, tax stops goes, I think it was, I don't remember for July, anyway, I was gonna be in Cedarville, I was gonna be right. I thought, here's that, and there's gonna, well, it's a tax, it's not gonna be to us, it'll be right there at the intersection of Coffin Hill and Barracks.
Loop 9 is way down here on the bottom. It's mostly going through Glen Heights. That's closest to us.
Right there.
Little dashed line right here.
Yeah.
They've done environmental, I believe. They don't have the money set aside for construction, but they have told Lancaster to start getting their 25% together to buy the property for their portion. It's not going to the south, but it's going to impact us a lot because it will connect Interstate 35, Interstate 45 to 35, and 35 to 67. So, big deal.
We're trying to get
Well, you know,
that's where I got from, I heard from text out, they're gonna start up at 45, and they're going west. So they've got, that'd be 45 to 35, and then they'll.
On to 67.
35 to 65.
What's that timeline on that? I mean, I know it's years, obviously, but.
If they got all their easements together, that's gonna be a big thing.
We get the date, I'll send y'all a note, let you know.
I'll drive it somewhere in the calendar.
well, they really rebuilt that, whole 635 up there. You can get lost on 635. I got contact.
Reminds me of Atlanta.
Yeah, it's really nice up there.
Oh, it's really nice. I love getting on that
Yeah. Fast track, getting on, yeah, I got lost in it one day, and then you can't exit off.
Can't get out.
Can't get out of the thing.
Coming out of Richardson.
Yeah, yeah, I was coming out of Richardson, I was like, I was lost, I
Mistakenly
couldn't
get
get
in
out.
that
Yeah,
lane.
you mistakenly get in that lane, I'm like, where can I get out?
And then you feel like, where am I?
All right, that's it, I think we adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you for coming, appreciate it.
Glad you didn't, you get tied up all day.
I know, oh my gosh, we got her all clear.
Oh, see, the time. We were at the inauguration.